All right, just gonna take it from the top. What's up? It's Rhett from the Heights Lab, and today we're gonna talk about making consistent mixes with multiple studio monitors. So for the record, you don't have to have multiple sets of monitors, but I'm just giving you tips. If you do have them, a lot of people have at least one set, and I find that it helps. It's easier than going and jumping in the car, but sometimes nothing beats the old car test, right? In my setup, I have the Sonys that are three-way speakers set up as a midfield. They are spread out somewhat wide. I have three sets of near field, being the Adams, the Yamaha, and the Wharfdale. And I use two subs. I have the Yamaha sub and an EV sub. Then I have two Yamaha three-way 10s that are also behind me. And a four-way set of hi-fi speakers up top, kind of like the big speakers or some far fields. And last but not least, I have the R65 set up on the left and right side of me. Having all of those monitors can make things confusing though. So what I like to do is pick a fixed volume rate for my speakers and my meters. You can easily create fixed points by using the markers on your mixer or your interface. If it doesn't have it, sometimes you can put a little piece of tape there. Most studio monitors do have an indicator on the back for where the volume should rest. Ultimately, what you're after though is a familiar volume for every time you turn it on so that you know if something is too loud or too quiet in the mix. Aside from this, you can use actual meters. I have a vintage Pioneer meter that I use often. There's other meters such as the TC Electronics and using meter plugins on your master bus like the WLMS Pro. These are all good ways of making sure that your ears or the room aren't deceiving you and your mixes are as loud as you want them to be. In my opinion, volume is one of the easiest impacts on your mix. Having something too low, sometimes it just doesn't have the punch, and if the person had simply turned it up, it would be better. Sometimes the mix is too loud and lacking headroom. It can make it sound crowded and distorted, or the streaming services may turn it down. Either way, you want to know what your actual volume is that you're putting out. Another tool I use for this is a decibel meter. That way you know that your fixed mixing point is at something comfortable. Some people like to mix between, I'd say, about 90 decibels and 120 decibels. I prefer to start much lower and then work my way up from there. I also use one main set of monitors until right before I bounce the mix. Then I use my secondary set, usually the Yamahas, to get a reference and work my way out from there. I want to do the core of my work on the ones that I'm most familiar with. With the subs, I have one that I adjust the volume on, and I have one that stays at a fixed volume no matter what. So when I turn it on, I know how loud it should be, and I never touch the volume on it. It's simply on and off. This gives me a good reference for my bass. I also don't usually use the sub until right before I bounce the mix, very much like the NS10s. This also lets you know that if you hear the bass on the two-way speakers, it's really there. Sometimes if you have the bass going in, it kind of fools you. Also, I don't want to forget to mention headphones. That's also a crucial part of the mix. As I'm mixing on the fly while I'm tracking, I'm always using my headphones. I use them as a reference sometimes while we're playing back. I never usually would ever, I've never sent a final mix out on just headphones. I'm aware that people are doing this, but in my environment, it's just not what I do. But I always check the mix on there because if you have a decent set of headphones or even mid-range and it sounds off there, it's going to sound off to most people. I do feel like most people these days are listening to mixes on headphones, even possibly more than in the car. So it's good to check them on a set of AirPods too, if you can before you send it out for mixing or mastering. For sure, a crucial part. I use the Beyerdynamics. I like 506 Sonys. And I have a pair of Beats in there that people seem to like. I have the Shure in-ear monitors as well, and a couple of vintage sets. And sometimes when people are tracking with the Beats, they may hear something different in the mix than translates on the monitor, so they may usually want me to add more bass or who knows what. But that is another element. Thanks for watching again. This is Rhett with the Heights Lab. If you can, please like and subscribe. I got a whole lot more videos on the way.